Okay, so this is the Gemara. We're in Daf Yomi. This is Avodah Zarah, Daf 45. So I apologize. We're behind now because couldn't make a video on Shabbat. Couldn't study Torah on Tisha B'Av. So here we are. The Mishnah says, with regard to the halacha in the case of the Gentiles who worship the mountains and the hills, the mountains and hills are permitted, but what is upon them is forbidden. It is not prohibited to derive benefit from the mountains and hills themselves, and they can be used for planting, harvesting, and the like. But if Gentiles coated them with gold or silver, it is prohibited to derive benefit from the coating, as it is stated, the graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for yourself, lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 7:25. Rabbi Yoshi Haglili says, with regard to the verse, you shall destroy all the places where the nations that you are to dispossess serve the gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills, and under every leafy tree. Deuteronomy 12:2. The mitzvah to destroy objects of idol worship applies to their gods upon, quote, on their gods upon the high mountains, end of quote, but not to the mountains themselves that are their gods. Similarly, it applies to, quote, their gods, etc., upon the hills, end of quote, but not to the hills themselves that are their gods. The Mishnah asks, and for what reason then is an Ashera forbidden? Doesn't the verse also state, quote, and under every leafy tree, end of quote, which indicates that the mitzvah to destroy objects of idol worship does not apply to the trees themselves? The Mishnah answers, it is because it is the product of human involvement and did not grow by itself, and the halacha is that anything that is the product of human involvement is forbidden. So Rabbi Akiva says, I will explain and decide the matter before you. The verse does not indicate limitations to the halakhic definition of idols. Rather, it is simply giving indicators of relevant idolatrous practice. So everywhere that you find a high mountain or an elevated hill or a leafy tree, know that there is idol worship there. Now we're at the Gemara. The Gemara says, the Gemara asks, but isn't the opinion of Rabbi Yoshi Haglili the same as that of the first Tana? Both of them indicate that what is on the mountain is forbidden, while the mountain itself is permitted. So Rami Bar Hama says that Reish Lakish says the difference between them is the issue of whether the status of the coating of a mountain is like the status of the mountain itself. The first Tana holds that the status of the coating of a mountain is not like the mountain itself and is therefore forbidden, and Rabbi Yoshi Haglili holds that the status of the coating of a mountain is like the mountain itself. So rejecting this explanation, Rav Sheshet says, everyone agrees that the status of the coating of a mountain is not like the mountain itself and is forbidden. Okay. And here they disagree with regard to the status of a tree that one planted and only subsequently worshipped. The first Tana holds that a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped is permitted, and Rabbi Yoshi Haglili holds that a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped is forbidden. The Gemara asks, from where does Rav Sheshet infer that Rabbi Yoshi Haglili holds that such a tree is forbidden? It is from the fact that the Mishnah teaches in the first clause, for what reason is an Ashera forbidden? It is because it is the product of human involvement and did not grow by itself. And the halacha is that anything that is the product of human involvement is forbidden. What is added by the generalization, and anything that is the product of human involvement is forbidden. Is it not added to include the case of a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped? The Gemara notes, and Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, also holds that a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped is forbidden. As it is taught in a Baraita with regard to the verse, quote, you shall destroy all the places where the nations that you are to dispossess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every leafy tree. Deuteronomy 12:2. So Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, says, from that which is stated in the verse, quote, you shall destroy, etc., their gods upon the high mountains, from which the sages derived, but not the mountains themselves that are their gods. And, quote, you shall destroy, etc., their gods, etc., upon the hills, but not the hills themselves if they are their gods. I would derive from the next clause in the verse, their gods under every leafy tree, that the mitzvah to destroy an object of idol worship does not apply to the leafy trees themselves that are their gods. Therefore, the next verse states, quote, and you shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their asherim with fire. Deuteronomy 12:3. Even a tree that was worshipped only after it was planted is forbidden. So rather, if the trees themselves are forbidden, why do I need the phrase under every leafy tree? That phrase comes to teach a halacha in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, as Rabbi Akiva says, I will explain and decide the matter before you. Everywhere that you find a high mountain or an elevated hill or a leafy tree, know that there is idol worship there. From the fact that Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, does not derive from the phrase, quote, under every leafy tree, that a tree was planted and only subsequently worshipped is still permitted. It is apparent that he holds that such a tree is forbidden. This is consistent with the opinion of Rav Sheshet ascribed to Rabbi Yoshi HaGalili. So the Gemara asks, and as for the rabbis, the majority, who maintain that a tree that was planted and subsequently worshipped is permitted, what do they do with this verse? Quote, and burn their Asherim with fire. So the Gemara answers this verse is necessary with regard to the halakha of a tree that was initially planted for that, meaning idol worship, which must be destroyed and from which deriving benefit is prohibited. The Gemara asks, but doesn't Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, also require this phrase to teach this? The Gemara answers, indeed he does. Rather, from where does he derive that a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped is forbidden? He derives it from the following verse. But so shall you deal with them. You shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and hew down their asherim and burn their graven images with fire. Deuteronomy 7:5. Now which is the tree whose trunk is forbidden, but its roots is permitted, as the verse instructs one to hew it down? You must say that it is referring to a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped. The Gemara asks, how that verse can be the source of the ruling of Rabbi Yoshi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, is deeming forbidden a tree that was planted and only subsequently worshipped. But doesn't the Baraita state that he adduces the derivation prohibiting worshipped Ashera trees from the verse, quote, and you shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Asherim with fire? So the Gemara answers by deriving this halakha from the verse, quote, and burn their Asherim with fire. Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, is speaking, utilizing the style of, if it were not stated. The Gemara explains, if the verse, burn their Asherim with fire, were not stated, I would have said that the verse, quote, and hew down their Asherim, is referring to a tree that was initially planted for idol worship. Now that it is written, and burn their Asherim with fire, the verse, and hew down their Asherim, is rendered superfluous and is consequently interpreted as referring to a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped. Therefore, it is ultimately this latter verse that serves as the source for the implied ruling of Rabbi Yoshi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, that it is prohibited to derive benefit from such a tree. The Gemara asks, and as for the rabbis, meaning the majority, what do they do with this verse? Quote, and hew down their Asherim. The Gemara answers, this verse is written in order to teach a halakha in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, as Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, the felling of trees dedicated to idol worship precedes the conquering of all of Eretz Yisrael, and conquering of Eretz Yisrael precedes the eradication of all the objects of idol worship. So as Rav Yosef teaches a Baraita, the verse states, quote, and you shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Asherim with fire. So Rav Yosef explains, and you shall break down their altars and leave them, as the Torah does not prescribe that they be burned, and dash in pieces their altars and leave them. So the Gemara asks, but does it enter your mind that the Torah is instructing one to leave them alone? Doesn't an object of idol worship require burning, as it says at the end of the verse, and burn their Asherim with fire? So Rav Huna says, pursue the enemy and then return to burn them, meaning first smash their objects of idol worship, then conquer the land, and then return to burn the smashed items. The Gemara asks, and from where does Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, derive this opinion about the order of priorities in the process of conquering Eretz Yisrael? The Gemara answers, he derives it from the verse, you shall destroy all the places where the nations that you are to dispossess serve their gods, upon the high mountains, upon the hills, and under every leafy tree. From the double verb form of the directive, you shall destroy, he derives that there are two stages of the destruction of their gods. To destroy them, so abed, that is smash them, then go and conquer the land. And only afterward you should destroy, to abedun, them completely, that is, burn or eradicate them. The Gemara asks, and what do the rabbis derive from the double verb? The Gemara answers, this double verb is necessary to teach that when one deracinates an object of idol worship, he needs to root out all traces of it. And I think when they're talking about the double verb, they're talking about, so you shall destroy. It's, abed to abdun. So it's kind of like two similar roots. The Gemara asking, from where does Rabbi Yoshi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, derive the obligation to root out all traces of idol worship? The Gemara answers, he derives it from the verse, quote, and you shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Asherim with fire, and you shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and you shall destroy their name out of that place. Deuteronomy 12:3. The Gemara asks, in what do the rabbis derive from this verse? The Gemara answers, this verse teaches that it is a mitzvah to give a derogatory nickname to an idol, as it is taught in the Baraita that Rabbi Eliezer says, from where is it derived that when one deracinates an object of idol worship, he needs to root out all traces of it? The verse states, quote, and you shall destroy their name out of that place, end of quote. And that is the end of Daf 45. Thanks for watching.